Hello, and welcome to the next in our series looking at the book Chocolat by Joanne Harris. Today I'm going to focus on the priest in the village and the personal crisis that he goes through and what we can learn from this. So Viviane has come to the small village in France. She's set up her chocolate shop and people have started coming to her shop. The priest preaches against her. And the more he rants and raves against her and how bad chocolate is and how evil she is, particularly her relationship with the river gypsies, the more people come to her shop. Then one Saturday evening, she and other people in the village are invited to join the river gypsies for a party on the river in their riverboats. The party is very successful, and at the end of the evening, the boat of Rue, who is the leader of the river gypsies, is set alight. By the next day, most of the river gypsies have left the village. Rue isn't able to leave because his boat has been completely destroyed. And when they go through the evidence of the fire, it becomes clear that somebody had set the boat alight using petrol. The suspicion is that it is one of the people who is very close to the priest and who is trying to gain favor with the priest by getting rid of the gypsies. And that has been the thing that the priest has been preaching about for the last couple of weeks. As Joanne tells the story, we realize that the priest is plagued with all sorts of ideas of inferiority, a huge sense that he is being persecuted. He feels that he's being persecuted by his congregation. They don't understand what he's saying. He's trying to save them from the bad influences of the river gypsies, and yet they go and join these people for a party. He's trying to save them from the bad influences of Viviane and her chocolate shop, and yet people flock to the chocolate shop. He is trying to save them from the temptations of evil, and he sees evil behind everything. As the story unfolds, we realize that he is struggling with his own temptations. He is tempted by Viviane herself. He's particularly tempted by her chocolate. And throughout all of this, he uses his faith to justify his own sense of persecution. So he's built up this whole narrative of how he is being persecuted in the same way that Christ was persecuted. His faith is being tested by all these people that won't listen to him. His faith is being tested by the temptations of chocolate, by the temptations of Viviane herself in her caring and kind demeanor. And all of this leads ultimately to him having a breakdown on the Saturday before Easter Sunday. And early on Easter Sunday, we find him in the shop window with chocolate smeared all over himself. He hasn't been able to resist the chocolate. He's broken into the shop and he's gorged himself on Viviane's beautiful Easter chocolates. Now, what does this say to us as Christians? I think that Joanne is pointing us to one of the real difficulties and dangers in any faith. Every faith teaches a particular set of rules. It teaches a particular way of understanding the world. And in Christianity, we have, as part of our understanding of the world, the concept of evil, the concept of temptations. Now, as a Christian, the temptation is to take a very human feeling, and that is a sense of being persecuted. It's very normal when people are against us that we feel a sense of being persecuted. And it takes a lot of emotional maturity to be able to let that go. Very often, the sense that we feel somewhat persecuted has to do with the fact that people don't really understand what it is we're trying to do or say, or because we misunderstand the people that we are speaking to. And so we use our faith and the stories of our faith to try and justify ourselves, rather than looking at ourselves and saying, is the story I'm telling myself of all this persecution actually true? Or am I deluding myself with the story? Am I using my faith and am I twisting it somewhat so that I can, as the priest in the story does, wallow in my own sense of being persecuted and use this idea of persecution to not reflect on myself, but to see myself as the victim and the martyr? It's a really difficult concept. And I think this particular story, like many of the others we've been looking at, is a reminder of how useful literature can be to help us explore and unpack how people use their faith and live with their faith. So I hope this gives you something to think with, and that the rest of your week is very blessed. Stay well.